So there's a lot to unpack this week for Detroit sports, with the NFL season wrapping up tonight with the Super Bowl later tonight. The Pistons, the trade deadline came and went for the Pistons. We'll break down their only move they made at the deadline. Wow, their great tank for Victor Wembanyama continues. The Red Wings return from the All-Star break as they continue their push for the playoffs. And we still try and figure out if there's any progress going between Dylan Larkin and Steve Eisman on a contract extension. But Larkin having another solid week to put more leverage in his favor, as the Red Wings trade deadline in the NHL isn't until March. But yeah, all that to talk about this week. So yeah, let's take a look at how Detroit sports went this week. So starting off this week, we had the Pistons and their 4 games this week, where their week started off pretty bad, with a big blowout loss against Boston and then a blowout loss later against Cleveland. The Boston one, they did a little bit better than I thought they would have. But, they tried to hang with Boston. But, at the end of the day, the Celtics were just a way better team. There's a reason why the Celtics are the top team in the NBA right now. And why the Celtics are more than likely the favorite to win the championship this year. If there was any questions about if Boston was going to lose their step or not after losing to the Golden State bandwagon last year in the finals, there's no questions anymore. Boston is picking right back up where they left off, and they're on a mission this year. Cleveland was just frustrated as all hell. The Pistons, they did get a win this week, which was a double overtime win in the Tank Bowl against San Antonio, since San Antonio's right there with the Pistons and company in the Tank Bowl to win the draft lottery for Victor Wembanyama. And of course, the Pistons week wrapped up with a loss against the Raptors in Toronto. And that was a pretty frustrating game to watch. The Pistons tried to come back, though, after trailing for probably double digits for most of the game. They tried to make it close, but in the end, their efforts just fallen short. It ended up being a 1-point loss because Jaden Ivey hit a bucket and hit a three-pointer as time expired, which was just a garbage time bucket, or a garbage time three-pointer, which just made the game look a lot closer than it actually was. The only highlight this week was mainly Jalen Duren's game against San Antonio, where he became the 4th teenager to have at least 30-plus points and at least 15-plus rebounds in a game. Joining Moses Turner or something like that, LeBron James and Paolo Banchero. Other than Paolo, Duren became the first teenager to have that kind of stat line since LeBron James. When you're doing something similar to LeBron, you're doing something I kind of feel like Jalen Duren is becoming the second coming of Andre Drummond with how good he's been with getting rebounds and points. Hell, his rookie numbers this year are very similar to Andre Drummond's rookie numbers. So yeah, and keep this in mind. Jalen Duren's 19? He's still very young. And he's only going to get better. Duren hasn't even reached his fucking peak yet. So yeah, he's this good now, and he's only going to get better from here on out. So, definitely his future's bright. But other than that, the Pistons tank rolls on. And also with the Pistons struggling week, there's one thing that's now guaranteed. The Pistons are officially guaranteed to have a losing record this year. Again. Alright, a losing record guaranteed already with at least 2 months left with around 2 months remaining in the season already. Maybe this ought to be enough to get Dwayne Casey finally fired. But before we continue on there, we are going to talk about the Pistons trade deadline, because for the Pistons, they did make one single move in the deadline in a 4-team trade. Because there were rumors about who was going to get dealt. Was it going to be Alec Burks? No one, no else. Boban Bogdanovic or Saddiq Bey? In the end, the Pistons chose to deal Saddiq Bey to the Golden State Warriors in exchange for 2020 second overall pick James Wiseman. You literally gave a what? What the fuck did Weaver do? He literally gave Saddiq Bey away for next to nothing. Honestly, what was the point of having James Wiseman? Now we got a logjam at center. Because we got Jalen Duren, we have Isaiah Stewart. what was really the point with that? Unless we're gonna move one of them to the power forward position, but fuck, like we already got Jalen Duren. We don't really need another center unless you're having Wiseman be a backup. And then the weirdest part about all this trade was that moments later, the Warriors then flipped Saddiq Bey to the Atlanta Hawks for 5 second-round picks. It's like we couldn't even get 1 second-round pick in exchange for fucking from Golden State in exchange for Saddiq Bey. And then there were questions about if the trade was going to be compromised or not because of Gary Payton's failed physical, but Golden State is going to keep it. So the trade will go through. So James Wiseman is officially coming to Detroit. So, but yeah, I mean, this move, I'm not sure what to think of this move. Like, Wiseman had that one good rookie year, and he hasn't really done much since then because of Golden State's depth chart. He hasn't had time, to develop and get playing time. He'll 100% get some playing time for sure starting this week because he didn't play at all for these 2 games because we had no fucking clue what was going to happen with between Golden State and Portland with Gary Payton failed physical to make it the 4-team trade. But yeah, I know, but this move is slowly making people slowly turn on Troy Weaver. But I'll say this here. I'm not on the boat to fire Troy Weaver just yet because Weaver's been pretty good at drafting, but something's telling us here that Troy Weaver's not really falling in love with his draft picks because, he already got rid of Luka Garza, and now he got rid of Saddiq Bey, as Saddiq has been the main highlight from his first draft class, because Saddiq Bey's been easily better than Isaiah Stewart and Killian Hayes. But yeah, through all of this, Boban Bogdanovic is still in the Pistons. It's like, you really couldn't get anything from Bogdanovic? With how great of a year he's had, his peak, his value is this high. It's going to get low. Every second he stays with the Pistons, his value drops and plummets. Same deal like Alec Burks and Nolan Norris. They could have been great depth pieces. You could have dealt them and get some picks in exchange. Who knows? Maybe with Bogdanovic, you could have got a couple of first-rounders for him, and they could have potentially been lottery picks. And to make this center log jam even more confusing, Joey just put this in perspective real quick. Victor Wembanyama is also a center. That can also be a power forward. So yeah, if we win the draft lottery, we're going to have a real clusterfuck at center here real quick. So yeah, a trade that didn't make so much sense. I'm not going to jump on board the fire Troy Weaver bandwagon just yet. But if Weaver decides to keep Dwayne Casey around after this year, and they do next to nothing in free agency this year, then I would be slowly on the boat to fire Troy Weaver. And clean house again. Because at some point in the rebuild, we need to see some fucking progress at this point. And it seems like the Pistons are just going backwards instead of forwards. And also with this trade, it also proves that once again, no matter who the GM is, the Pistons seem to just give up on players way too early. Somehow I feel like Wiseman's going to prove some people wrong, but I feel like giving away Saddiq Bey for next to nothing is going to come back to haunt us. But yeah, just, the Pistons already threw their towel in on the season earlier in the year when Cade Cunningham got the season-ending injury, but this just officially really throws in the towel as to bring out the tanks at Little Caesars Arena. But yeah, not much to say there. But on the more positive stuff here, we had the Red Wings playing as they come back fresh off their All-Star break with a 3-game homestand against 3 Canadian refugees. The Edmonton Oilers. Where the Wings struggled against the Oilers, which honestly that's expected. The Wings seem to do well against the teams they're supposed to beat, but against the top tier teams, they struggle against them. And the worst part about the game against Edmonton was that McDavid was a fucking non-factor in this game. He did next to nothing, and the Wings still got blown out by the Oilers. And McDavid did nothing. It was one of McDavid's worst games of the season. But yeah, just imagine what Edmonton could do. when they actually put talent around McDavid and Draisaitl come playoff time. But yeah, but the Waynes, though, they did rebound and got 2 solid wins, you know. They had a solid win against Calgary in a defensive game, so that was good there to bounce back against the Flames. You know, beating the teams we're supposed to beat, especially the Canucks on Saturday, where the Waynes just actually had a fucking competent offense for once, but the Waynes scoring 2 goals within 3 minutes. It's like, what the? Waynes scoring 2 goals within the first 3 minutes? What the actual hell is this? Like, I think this just shows the inconsistency of the Red Wings. One game, the offense looks top tier. Next game, it just turns into complete fucking goop. It's like, if only this Red Wings team was fucking consistent this year, they possibly could have been even closer to the playoffs and maybe could still get on a wild card, but their chances are slowly fading. As it's slowly looking like the Wings are going to be sellers at the deadline, even if they have a slim chance at still making the playoffs. But hey, you know, regardless of it, you know, despite all that, it's still better than where we would have been with Blashill. Like, with Blashill, we would have easily been losing games like this a lot. But yeah, you know, still some good progress there for sure. You know, a great win against Vancouver to wrap it up. You know, and Larkin also having a solid week too, which is just going to add more leverage in Larkin's favor during the contract negotiations with Yzerman for the contract, since so far, neither side is budging on the contract, because Yzerman doesn't want to go anywhere above $8 million. Larkin doesn't want to fall anywhere below $9 million, especially after the contract extension Bo Horvat just got with the Islanders, and then Dylan Cousins' extension he recently just got with the Sabres. So it's going to be an interesting situation. The problem with Larkin is we can't trade him at the deadline for something, because Larkin has a full-on no-trade clause. And Larkin will more than likely enforce it if they try and trade him. So it's either the Yzerman and Larkin will have to find a compromise in negotiations, or we have to let Larkin walk away for next to nothing. But the Waynes, it seems like at the deadline, they're getting ready to sell Tyler Bertuzzi, because it's seeming like the Waynes, they aren't going to sign Bertuzzi because they won't afford to keep Bertuzzi. They're trying to keep Larkin, so that means Bertuzzi's got to go. You know, because of cap crunch. But yeah, like I've said before, you know, if you're not going to keep Bertuzzi, then trade him away and get something back for him in return instead of have him walk for nothing as well. Like Larkin, we can't really trade him because of his no trade clause, but Bertuzzi doesn't have one, so maybe try look at trade him and flipping him at the deadline and get something back for him in return. You know, acquire some more picks so Steve Yzerman can work that draft magic once again, so we can see Stevie Y cook in the draft. And also, DaOutsiders slowly starting to bounce back after having a bit of a sophomore slump to start the year, but he's slowly starting to get it turned around. So that's good to see. But yeah, you know, the Wings, though, the Wings next week, they go on a they're now getting ready to start a 5-game road trip of 4 games out west next week against the 3 same Canadian teams we played this week. And then the 4th game being wrapped up with a stop in Seattle against the Kraken. A trip to Seattle, followed by along with trips to Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. So a bit of a West Coast swing for next week, as the Wings push toward possibly still being a contention for a playoff spot continues. Like, the Wings have made progress, but, you know, they're just so inconsistent this year, and I still feel like they're missing something. They're still missing a piece. Like, I'm not sure if that piece is Marco Kasper or something else, but they're still missing something, that's for sure. And also, Lucas Raymond also had some solid moments too, including Philippe Sedano finally scoring something and bouncing back after everything he's gone through this year, so that's good to see. You know, maybe potentially getting Jacob Verana back once we decide his stint in Grand Rapids is up, since so far Verana's doing pretty well in Grand Rapids so far, along with Alex Nedeljkovic. So, a lot of questions for sure, but, you know, Steve Yzerman's still the guy to get it done. You know, we got the head coach, you know, despite all the progress the Waynes still have made this year, they still got a long ways to go. But, you know, it'll be interesting to see what the Yzer plan does. in a couple months at the deadline. But the Wayne's playoff push continues on. And yes, folks, in case you were wondering, I am very aware of what happened at the NFL Honors with Aiden Hutchinson getting snubbed out of the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, along with Ben Johnson getting snubbed out of Assistant Coach of the Year. Like, we already knew about Dan Campbell getting snubbed, and also Jared Goff getting snubbed out of the Comeback Player of the Year, along with the Walter Payton Man of the Year. Just, all I have to say to the snubbing is not really surprised by it. And the one thing I'll say to it is simply Detroit versus everybody. I'm out.